Watch out, there's a fragments of silicon in the road.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining as always, our Petty and Galax. Right, let us get to the tidings of the week. Galax, why don't you start us off?
I turned freaking 38 last Saturday, so that's a thing.
Congratulations.
You survived 38 trips around the sun. Good job.
Haven't arranged any presents of any significance, although I need a new laptop soon. I think.
Yeah.
Mine is just getting quite old and sometimes locks up unexpectedly.
It's almost old enough to vote. I'm joking on that, but only slightly.
It's probably like 7 or something. Maybe less than that. I don't know.
It's ancient in computer terms.
Mm-hmm. And laptops that you bring around places with you have a limited lifespan.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about looking into that. I got my taxes done on time. That was good. But yeah, we went out for dinner, and the first two places we were looking for had wicked long waits, but we ended up in a nice other place that was near one of them. So that was good. Luckily, in Portland, you cannot swing a metaphorical cat without hitting a restaurant. And a lot of them are good. And then we actually have a reservation for the first place sometime next week.
Fun.
Video game wise, not much. Also previous video game, I built the high grade Gundam Aerial over the last few days.
Just the regular one or the
regular one? I also have the rebuild, and then since it was my birthday and I want to mess around with interchanging parts of them, I also ordered the Calibarn, which arrived today, and the Lefrith, the first one.
Yeah, Calibarn's on my list just because I like upgraded suits.
Mm-hmm. And then also some of those remote weapon stands that, since that's their whole thing.
Yeah. Is that trying to get the remote weapon ones was a third-party add-on, or were those actual Bandai?
No, they did release the Witch from Mercury weapon display bases.
Because I know for the longest time stuff like that was third-party only.
No, they're little trapezoids that can attach to one of the sides of an action base. The ones with the hexagonal bases that are for 1/144th scale. That have just a bunch of little arms for, and also adapters, because most of the bit staves do not have 3mm pegs.
Indeed.
But yeah, that's there's that, and then video game wise, mostly been playing Splatoon 3, getting ready for the what's cutest bear cubs, bunnies or chicks this coming weekend.
Fun.
I think that's about all I got.
Well, Petty, you're up.
Oh boy. Well, this week has, not been the most harrowing of weeks. We did have to replace the microwave downstairs. And then yesterday we
Did someone try to make a fork sandwich again?
No, the microwave was over a decade old.
Oh, okay.
And also partly what else I was getting to, apparently the outlet is going bad because it just failed. And the refrigerator that was plugged into it defrosted. So that was fun, and this weekend I get to change an outlet. So
You're
that's
becoming quite the handyman.
Oh, that's also I also get to fix an air conditioner when the part comes in. Because the thermistor on the new window unit we just got like less than 2 years ago, it's throwing up an error that at best it's just the thermistor went bad. At worst, we need to replace the entire air conditioner.
Have you thought about starting a repair service?
We'll see if I fix it first.
There.
Cause yeah, I mean I do computer repair because I'm very good with computers. If you haven't figured out by now.
Hmm.
As far as gaming, obviously I haven't had a whole lot of time to get much into that.
Hmm.
Though this weekend, either tomorrow if we don't have Final Fantasy 14 raids, or Friday, I'm going to see about grabbing Ogre to finish up the Final Fantasy 16 DLC because that I believe dropped today. So that's going to be something to finish off. And I did also hear that Ogre is finally upgrading his computer that is ancient. So
I mean, did he tell you?
Yeah, I helped him pick up the parts for it. So yeah, that's going to be coming soon. I imagine there's probably going to be at least one Discord call involved in this to me help walking him through this if he can't knock it down to build it for him. But yeah, it's kind of what I do. I literally went to school for this, so might as well use my talents in some way, right?
I guess.
I'm guessing that the card shop is finally closed for good because we tried to go by Sunday and the lights were off and a closed sign was on the door. So that
one
is.
Or one out.
Yep. I am looking into possibility of at least doing Digimon stuff potentially because the manager at the store I also went to high school with, he still wants to do Digimon stuff in the big city. So if he brings me along, that's an extra body in the seat, and whatever like promo cards I don't want, he can go flip online. So again, mutually beneficial. That's probably. I know it might be on Mondays, so it shouldn't have any bearing on the show because I can't exactly go to the big city on a Sunday and expect to show up for reviews.
Indeed.
So
do that.
Yeah, the big city is about an hour away. So yeah, that would be fun.
Right.
And I think that's it from my part. If you hear any loud screaming coming from Missouri over the next week, air conditioning repair is hard.
Duly noted. All right. Suppose it's my go. Let's see. Got a haircut this week, at long last. Still dealing with the cold, which is lingering.
Is it about the time to talk to a doctor about this, or?
No, it's going away. It's
right.
taking its sweet time.
Fair.
It's only been a week and a half.
I guess my perception of time is kind of fucked because, repairs.
But anyway, I suppose getting to the big news of the week. Yesterday I was in a car wreck. Like, there's no other way to put it.
Yep.
That, like, I'm doing fine for the
At
most
least
part.
physically.
I mean, mentally, it's like this isn't my first accident.
Mm.
My second. Like, I mean, I got a bunch of cuts on my legs.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to the doctor, and they weren't too concerned.
Yeah.
Like, apparently, I had to go to a specific accident doctor.
Yeah,
Did
they
not know
do
these.
that just to make sure you don't have any internal injuries.
Well, it's more urgent care would not take me up because I was in an accident.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's one of
and
those weird in-betweens, an urgent care and a full-on ER.
yeah, and going to an ER would have cost me $150.
Right. That's partly why that is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be 75 last year, but they increased it. I think because they increased other things in my insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got a huge boost to my vision. Um,
Fun.
like it actually is. Like they provide $300 towards glasses now, but like that's the trade off.
Right.
So, um, anyway, yeah. So I'm going to be without a car for a while, but that's being worked out in the insurance and all of that business,
Mm-hmm.
which is its own adventure, let's say.
Was the other guy
Uh,
okay, or did you hit a stationary object?
no, like it was an like the lady was fine, although
Right.
she's claiming injury now, which
Obvious.
is bullshit.
Yeah, it
Like she was
happens.
walking around, she was walking around fine.
I trust you have video of this?
Fortunately, not.
Mm.
So, like,
Hindsight's 2020 on that one?
well, it's more like when you're in an accident, you're not. You might be a bit shaken up.
Fair.
It's like it was kind of incumbent on other people to catch this.
Preferably men in blue suits.
Yeah, uh, like, but like, anyway, so the car isn't officially totaled yet, but that's mainly because the claims adjusters have to do their assessment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure it's going to be totaled.
Did the airbag pop?
Oh yeah.
It's totaled.
Oh yeah.
No insurance company in their right mind would, let you drive a car that the airbag deployed.
Well, it's more they have to determine whether it's worth it to repair or not. Like I said, I'm not expecting anything else than it being totaled. I'm just saying officially the stance is undecided.
Yeah, from my friend who is an insurance agent, 9 out of 10 times if the airbag goes off, they're totaling it.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this is this is the official status of things,
Right.
which is
This
kind
is
of
more just for
important.
the people in chat who may have never dealt with accident stuff before.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's probably going to be written off. Thankfully, there's gap insurance and all that,
Good.
so the loan should be taken care of.
Right.
And a new vehicle will be secured. In the meantime, since my brother is, let's say, around, he gets to play Uber for the time being.
Are you the oldest sibling or the
I'm
younger?
middle child.
Ah. So it'll be the teenage days all over again.
Not really.
Fair.
Anyway, so that's where things lie right now. Like, oh, right. Also, that I did get a citation for failure to yield.
Oh,
So,
man.
That's
have to take care
kind
of
of
that
insult to
next month.
injury, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's something that can be taken care of next month.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of gaming, played a few hours of Fallout 4 recently. I like it a lot less than Fallout New Vegas, and even for that matter, Fallout 3. Mainly because my controllers aren't working with it, and I don't know why. They
What
should be working.
controllers do you have?
Xbox controllers. They should
Huh.
be reading me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like playing it on a keyboard feels a lot clunkier than it should.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's just
was
because
messing around with New Vegas earlier for the show, and it was like, oh god, what did they do with the keyboard and mouse controls?
I'm like, hint, play with the controller. It's
Yeah.
built for a controller. Especially, here's the thing. You use VATS. You don't have to worry about aiming if you use VATS.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the VAT system less in Fallout 4 because it's not, it doesn't go turn-based. It just slows things down, which is awkward.
Yeah.
Especially because whatever wizard made the key bindings, I can't rebind the actual keys for VATS.
Oh god, that was one of the complaints of 4, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm so used to, because I played a little bit on PC, and I'm so used to the mod that gives you old VATs back.
Right.
Hint, play with that mod.
No, I know. Like, I've been just messing around with Fallout
Right.
4. Believe me, it's a mainline Bethesda entry. You need mods.
Yeah.
And see, been playing the games for review as well. Once again, not as much as I've been wanting to, but life kind of intervened.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's my news for the week. So merrily we shall be rolling along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Harrison of Switchback Studios.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me.
And not a problem, not a problem. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing all right. Not too much dramatic happened this week aside from a slight leak, but it was in the tub, so that is contained. Nothing too dramatic, fortunately.
Good to know.
Yes.
Anyway, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the game, the studio, and all of that business. And we do this by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Okay. Well, let's see. On a personal level, actually a little unusual in that I had a pretty late start into video games. My parents were the biggest fan, and I didn't have. I think my first gaming console was maybe the Wii. When I was in, I want to say middle school. And outside of that, probably my first memories of gaming were figuring out how to get a Pokemon Red emulator set up on like my home computer. I think that was one of my first gaming experiences. And I proceeded to play through all the first 3 generations on various emulators. It was a lot of fun. That's, I guess, how I got my start. As for how I got into it professionally, I guess there are a few stages there. In high school, there was a computer programming class that you could take in as elective. it was a pretty new class, so I took it, and that class was kind of a strange adventure. The rumor was that the original teacher stopped. He left partway through the year. The rumor was that that was because he got arrested for possession of drugs. Don't know if that was true or not. But
Rumor's gonna
the-
rumor.
I actually
especially in
had
high
that
school.
happen in college.
similar story.
Exact same story. Like a teacher of mine got arrested in a drug bust.
Oh my
In the
goodness.
news and everything.
Yeah, similar with
Was-
high school for me. Apparently, teacher was making meth with some lab equipment.
Oh my.
In fact,
Eddie fan, that was Breaking Bad. You just really liked it.
I wish. At least it'd make things a lot more interesting.
But yeah, the brand new physics teacher took over that class and just kind of threw up his hands like, oh, you guys can do whatever. So we spent about 50% of that class playing Minecraft, and the other 50% throwing things together in Game Maker. And that was kind of my first experience in saying like, oh, this is something that you can actually do, right? And then that kind of stuck around in my brain for a long time, more as a hobby, something I dabble with in my free time. And then I went to school for mechanical engineering, so I was working that after college. And then the pandemic happened. And everything kind of got weird and scrambled during the pandemic. And my boss at the time, he left his job to go and go and hike the Pacific Crest Trail. If you know what that is. It's basically the West Coast equivalent of the Appalachian Trail. And kind of everyone was scattering, going different places, and my partner, my fiance, wanted to do something new as well, and she wanted to move to the West Coast. So it kind of seems like a perfect time to, I don't know, try out something new, pursue your dreams kind of thing. And so I thought, like, let's take that dive. I've been making games, kind of dabbling on and off for a while. And since I had to leave my job anyways when I was moving over to the West Coast, I was like, you know what, let's try doing this full time for a bit and see how that goes. And yeah, so I started making games full time.
And let me see here. So you've actually developed a trio of games so far, with your first one being Fallen Spirit.
Yes, yeah. So I've got Fallen Spirit was my first game. It's definitely shows that it was my first proper Steam release. It's a I can talk about it a bit if you would like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's I almost struggle to call it a game. It's a VR experience. It's very short. Basically, the premise is that you wake up in this kind of cavern ruins, and you find this little, almost pixie spirit light thing. You find it trapped, and the game basically centers around you wandering your way through these ruins, kind of guiding the light to you. You can summon it, you can call it to you, and then it kind of wanders off by itself. And you can use that to solve some basic puzzles and kind of light up the area around you, get an idea of where you are. And eventually the goal is you get to the surface and you let the light go free. It's just it's much more of a bit of a walking simulator, a bit of a puzzle game, but a lot of focus on atmosphere, that kind of thing. It was definitely an interesting project. My first real project where I had to put everything together and put it out and release it. But yeah, I think it went well. I think it was a fun experiment, to be sure. And then after that, sorry, go
How
ahead.
did you find working in VR?
Working VR is, at the time, I didn't really have a good perspective on the challenges versus, making a more conventional game. But definitely, you just have to, you have to kind of keep in mind that at any point, the player can just kind of wander off to the side and stick their head through a wall. It also was quite a bit of a challenge to test. I spent a fair bit of time. My company at the time, we used VR headsets in some of our visualizations. So I was also using that to test on the side before I got my own system. And there is, I don't know, it's still like relatively young technology, so there's a lot of compatibility weirdness going on there. So testing was a massive pain. But yeah, it was fun. I'm one of those people who can't really move in VR without getting motion sick also, which limits my abilities a bit. But it was enjoyable. And there's something very satisfying, I guess arguably even more satisfying than making a more conventional game about, making a world, making an interaction, and literally being able to boot that up and immerse yourself fully in it. I think that's pretty cool.
Now, would you do another VR experience?
I honestly, yeah, one of my long-term thoughts for a game, I have a lot of these, so take this with a grain of salt, but one of my long-term thoughts would be some kind of farming experience simulator. My fiance, she went and worked on a farm in Hawaii for 3 months, and I joined her for a week, and I thought it was a really interesting experience. And so sometimes I think about making something analogous to that, something, I don't know, somewhere between that and Stardew Valley, but in VR. And that's always kind of captivating to me. And I've seen a bunch of projects looking for freelancers and that kind of thing for educational VR apps. There's one quite recently in Germany that I stumbled across that they're doing, looking into the biology of the cell in a VR experience. Kind of as a learning tool and just as a way to get people interested. That kind of thing, I think, has a ton of potential. I would love to work with something like that.
Yeah, we've had a few VR, educational VR people on the program. Interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the successor to the old entertainment titles of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the closest thing you get to them these days. Anyway, so moving forward, let me see here. Your first a flat screen project, I suppose they call them, is a game called Cat Herder.
Yes. Yeah, Cat Herder was... Oh man, Cat Herder was a lot of things. So prior to Cat Herder, I had done this slightly insane kind of game dev marathon where I had made 10 games over the course of 10 weeks, for a number of reasons. But one of them was to kind of test out a bunch of different ideas and see how they felt, see how they played. And Cat Herder was one of the ones that stood out from that challenge. So the idea of a cat-themed puzzle game where you are literally trying to move them around and get them to stay, but then they being cats do not particularly enjoy being herded or being told to stay in one place, and so they kind of fight you for it. I think that's just a pretty fun idea. And I had also just recently adopted a cat. Her name is Dory, and she's one of the most dog-like cats I've ever met in my life. But she is extremely chaotic and provided a lot of inspiration for that. That was a really fun project. Just the basic premise, as I said, is you have each level, you have a certain number of cats, and you have these zones set in the floor. And you have to get the cats into the zones, and you have to get them to stay in the zones for a couple seconds. And if you can do that, you can move on to the next level. And there's a bit of a arcade style. The faster you do it, the most stars you get aspect to it. But fundamentally, it is a puzzle game where you are trying to herd cats. It has kind of an interesting play where the cats do kind of behave randomly. So there is an element of luck involved, but there is kind of a discrete solution for all the puzzles as well. You can leverage the cat's behaviors. Some of them are more active than others, so some of them will be more content to stay in place. They have different toys and such that they like. So there's a little ball you can throw around. There's like a mouse on a string. There's a laser pointer, that kind of thing. And each cat has its own preferences for what toys they like and do not like, and so on. So it's actually surprisingly complicated. One of the design decisions I look back on and think, I'm not so certain about that one anymore, was that it's actually, for how kind of cute and silly it looks, it's actually kind of brutally hard. So it definitely caught some people by surprise, I think. But I think that's... I thought that's
I'm
kind of
not
fun.
sure what they were expecting.
Yes, it's cat herding, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think the cutesy aesthetic, lures people in, and then you kind of get sucker punched.
Anyway, so I suppose that brings us to your most recent project, that is Grippy Goal,
Indeed.
which is a curious title because it's not really a golf game.
Yes.
You describe it as a speedrunning 3D platformer where objects stick to the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Coming up with a quippy one sentence, one phrase tagline to kind of try to encapsulate what this game is was a challenge that I never really fully was satisfied with, to be perfectly honest. Because yes, it's a very, very unusual game in many senses. But yeah, it's, I guess, for those of you who know what these games are, reference-wise, I describe it as a combination of golf, Katamari, and Neon White. So, as you can see on the screen, those of you who are watching, you have a ball, though in this case it's a Rubik's Cube, we'll get to that. You have a ball, and it will stick to objects, and your goal is to get to the goal as fast as you can, ideally in one stroke. Every single hole, you'd want to get a hole in one. And to do that, you have this boost that you can aim as you fly through the air. So that's kind of why I describe it as more of a 3D platformer than a golf game. Because generally speaking, in golf, you do not have control over the ball after it leaves the club. But here you can kind of ricochet all around. There's all sorts of power-ups and other things that you can leverage in order to get to the goal.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Reminds me of a couple of other not golf games, like familiar with the title called What the Golf?
Yes, they even have a level, don't they, where it sticks to things.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while since I played that, but that sounds like something that they did. Another one is Super Inefficient Golf.
Oh, that one I don't know. That one did not come up in my my research.
Good. Anyway, so what was the inspiration to make this not quite a golf game?
It's very much so. The initial inspiration, or the initial conception, I suppose, of the game didn't have the speed running aspect at all. At first it was just the sticking aspect, and it was conceived as part of that 10 games in 10 weeks challenge. And I just thought it was kind of a silly idea. Oh, the ball sticks to things. So that initial prototype that I made about 2 years ago now was very much just kind of how do I describe it? More just kind of chaos for the sake of chaos. It was let it rip. You had a lot of those boost pads, and then the ball just stuck to an uncountable number of things, and it was silly and fun, but it wasn't exactly something that could sustain a lot of gameplay or a large game. But I did really like the kind of fundamental concept. I thought it was fun. I thought it was unique. So I did want to take it and expand it out into a full game. So I basically spent a lot of time messing about and seeing what I could add to the experience to make it something more enduring, something with an element of skill. If I wanted to add skill, something like that. And I found during kind of just play testing, just testing out prototypes, that if I had the arrows, the boost pads in pretty early on, and I found that if I strung them together, if you could bounce from one to the other and ricochet along and then get a hole in one right off the bat, I thought that was really satisfying. I really enjoyed that when I was prototyping. So I started moving towards, well, how can we capture that experience specifically in the game? But there was also this kind of contrast between, silly sticking physics-based nonsense, as you can see on the screen with what's happening right now. It kind of runs counter to the idea of moving, quickly and accurately, right? So that was part of the core conflict, you could say, in the game itself. And eventually, I think I watched. You guys know Game Maker's Toolkit, Art Brown, that kind of thing. Are
Yeah,
you familiar with his show?
Mhm.
I watched his video actually breaking down the kind of basic premise of Neon White, and I immediately thought like, oh, I can take that and apply that to this game, where so that basically shifted. Now it was no longer I committed fully to the kind of more precision speed aspect. But then I figured instead of having shortcuts and so on, I could have these bonus objectives in each level, which in order to get a full 3 stars on the level, you not only have to get a hole in one, but you also have to accomplish some bonus objective. And the bonus objective usually has something to do, almost always, I think, has something to do with the sticking mechanic. So it then becomes a game of balancing the sticking mechanic, when to use it, when not to use it. Oftentimes you have to, but you have to be smart about it, or you have to pull off some particularly skilled move to hit the thing that you need. And by putting that together, it actually made the game solidify, come together in a design sense, kind of reconciled those two separate halves of the approach. And I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out, to be honest.
That's good. And how long did it take to create this game?
So about a year and a quarter-ish. I started messing about with this after Cat Herder released, and Cat Herder, I want to say, released November 2022. So I think I was first starting to set the groundwork in December 2022, which was, about a year and 5 months ago, 4 months or so. So yeah, I spent most of a year and a little bit of change working on this, which I can't tell if that's a long time or a short time anymore. Because the design process went through so many twists and turns, sometimes it feels like it should have taken me much less, but also, I don't know, I also sometimes feels lightning fast, so I can't really tell anymore.
I'm like, now I'm assuming you're a solo dev?
Yeah, I do everything except for this game. I contracted out the music, and I hired someone to do the key art on Steam. You know, the really nice cover art, that kind of thing. That's outside my expertise. And the music, I hired my composer Ram to do. It's turned out way better than anything I could do. But everything else, yeah, I do myself. The modeling, the sound design, the animation, that kind of thing. I do that.
I'm like, honestly, given the dev times that we've had on the program, especially with solo dev, a year and some change is on the shorter side of the equation.
Mm-hmm. It definitely.
We've had people spend 2-3 years easy on a game, just a single game.
And that's
it totally
on the
depends
light
on scope.
Yeah.
It totally depends on scope, right? I ended up cutting a lot out of this because I kind of had set myself an internal deadline of, okay, this needs to be out by this point, because if it's not, then I need to start, making money from other sources. So that kind of put a hard limit on how long I could spend on the game, which I think was a good thing. I think definitely a trap that a lot of game devs fall into, and I definitely would fall into if I let myself, was always trying to add more. There's always more on the horizon. I still want to add multiplayer to this game. For example, like I really wanted multiplayer, but it just became apparent, like, no, that's not going to happen with the time I have. It forced me to cut things out. But from a meeting deadlines and project planning perspective, that was a good thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem with solo dev a lot, because, like, I don't have any deadlines I need to deal with. Wait a second, hold on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And how many holes are in this game?
I want to say 45. I should really know this, but it's occurring to me that I do not. But yeah, 40 something. I can say that at least. So there's 6, I guess technically 7 worlds. I don't know if this is a spoiler. There's a bonus level at the end. It's evil. I love it. But yeah, there's 7 worlds, kind of 3 environments. So far in the background footage, we've just been in the first environment, but we'll get there eventually. And then yeah, 40 something levels all told.
Now, do the different environments have different effects on like the golf ball?
So I suppose not so much on the golf ball. There is the final environment, which we probably won't get to in the B-roll, but the final environment is in space, and as a result, all the objects, the cones and the houses and everything else, they're all floating. They all have 0 gravity, and there's definitely there's somewhat themed power-ups, I suppose. So this environment after this is kind of an industrial factory setup. So there's conveyor belts in some of the later stages, and the space one has a gravity manipulation ability, because in space and up is just a construct. But the inherently not necessarily. But I did play around with it a fair bit.
And it's a bit of a hard question to ask, but what sort of wackiness can one expect outside of what we're seeing on screen here? Like, is it just this?
In terms of wackiness, not too sure what you mean, to be honest. Or just in terms of general weirdness.
Yeah. Like, how weird does this game get?
Honestly, for how bizarre a premise it is, there's no real narrative aside from a few absent-minded background comments that may raise some eyebrows. There's a shopkeeper; he has some slightly weird lines of dialogue. Probably the weirdest thing, honestly, in the game, aside from the basic premise of sticking to things and all of that, is the different quote-unquote golf balls you can get. It's one of my favorite features, actually. I originally wanted to have like character customization, some kind of tangible in-game reward for doing well, for getting 3 stars in each level, that kind of thing. And in Cat Herder, that had worked really well. You could buy little accessories for the cats to wear, and it was super cute. But I realized pretty early on that didn't really make sense for this game, just because you're not looking at the character very often. You're mostly looking at the ball. So then one of my friends was like, well, what if you could customize the ball? And I ended up taking that a little bit further and said, what if you could just make the ball not be a ball at all? So right now we're golfing with a Rubik's Cube. It shuffles itself each time you boost and changes the color as well, which I think is fun. But those items definitely get progressively stranger. You can golf with the previous shop owner's head. You can golf with a grenade that goes off if you don't reach the end fast enough. There's a rubber duck, which I hate. I made it, and I think it's funny, but I can't play with it because it makes a squeaking rubber duck noise every time you hit it, and it drives me insane.
I'm guessing every time you hit it and every time it blows up.
Yeah.
Every time you boost
it.
Hell looking at some of these levels.
Oh, actually, we're going to the Star Store now in the B round. So yeah, we've got like a hairbrush, we've got a golf club that had to be in there. We've got a gun. Forgot about the gun. Yeah, I think that's probably some of the weirder stuff that this game has, aside from the basic premise.
Right. Yeah, that was what I was fishing for. The specific gimmickry that you'd find in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think aside from that, honestly, not too much. I mostly played. Once you get past the premise, it's played fairly straight, surprisingly.
So something I'm noticing that's a little different. How's the golf swing? Because usually when I see golf swing is like the traditional power meters that you see
Mm-hmm.
in Mario Golf and Top Shots and stuff like that. But I'm not seeing those bars here.
Yeah, no, the only feedback you really get, this was something that I kind of debated a lot early on, back before I added the boost, was exactly how much precision control I should give in terms of that initial swing. So it's basically just like a timed charge up effect. So you swing and then your character kind of lifts the club higher and lower, and there's a little dotted line that tells you how far you're going to swing. But once you get going, really the boost kind of takes a lot of. There's not much point in having it be too ridiculously precise, just because you have a boost that you can aim right after the fact. So it becomes much less of a factor than it would be in a more traditional golf game. I guess I should say, in case it hasn't been obvious from the footage, the complicating factor with the boost is that you only get one of them. Whenever that ball, I guess it's a golf club right now, whenever that's glowing, you can boost. But you have to hit something else. You have to hit an arrow, you have to hit a power-up, something along those lines, in order to gain that boost back. And that kind of is the fundamental conceit of the game, is chaining those moves together into a single stroke.
Right.
Anyway, so how long ago did this game release?
This came out late February, so almost 2 months now.
And how's it been faring in the marketplace?
Not as well as I'd hoped, to be perfectly honest. Not as well as Cat Herder, even, which is a shame. Part of the reason, just aside from what's the word I'm saying? Aside from general marketability of it being kind of a more difficult concept, I do think it appeals. The people who like it seem to really like it, but it's definitely not everyone's game, right? I'd say if you're someone who loves, speed running, loves Neon White, and if you're the kind of person who will redo something over and over, like bang your head against the wall trying to get the perfect run, then this game, you will love the hell out of it. But not everyone's like that, and God, not everyone should be like that.
Now, is it more like chaotic physics, or is it easier to determine where the ball is going to go?
It's surprisingly I spent a lot of time dedicating to trying to make the physics as relatively predictable as possible. I say relatively because it is chaotic, especially right now with the golf club. That is, the physics mess on that golf club is just like a stick. So you can see right here, it actually kind of glitches out a bit in this frame. I remember looking at that and thinking that was weird. But fortunately, most of the time, the ball's not really touching the ground. That's
how you can get stuff like a golf club or a Rubik's Cube working as your ball.
Yes, exactly. So there's a number of more subtle aspects as well that kind of try to make it behave relatively well. Like, you'll notice each time you hit one of these arrows, the ball and everything connected to it, they get topspin. And that just means that when it does hit the ground, it's much more likely to continue going in a straight line, as opposed to like here where I boosted, so I got topspin and I got backspin instead. It kind of messes with the roll. So little details like that to try to make it a little bit more controllable, a little bit more predictable. It's definitely still chaotic. But usually if things are going completely off the wall, it's a sign that something has gone wrong.
And you mentioned previously that you wanted to add multiplayer to Rippy Golf here.
Yes.
How feasible is that in actuality?
Well, it would definitely be a very different game. So if my pitch for the single player mode, it relies on comparing it to Neon White, my thoughts for my plans for multiplayer is to make it more like I'm blanking here. Oh, more like Mario Kart. So the idea is that there would be these power-ups. So right now we've only seen the magnet power-up so far, but I have other power-ups like lost video there. I have other power-ups like wall power-up that I was prototyping for a while that just manifests a wall in front of everyone else. Position, location swap power-ups, slowing, time freezing, that kind of thing. And the idea would be that everyone be racing towards the hole and kind of messing with each other. The physics definitely is a pain to handle multiplayer wise, but I actually had a whole devlog on working on that problem, and I came to something that was relatively workable as long as people have okay connections. It's definitely a challenge, and it's something I'm working on actively now, but I think it's definitely doable. It's just going to take me a bit longer because I'm no longer working on this full time.
And I suppose that begs the question, what is your latest non-grippy golf project?
Well, right now it's job search. Basically looking at doing something. I've picked up some part-time work, some freelance stuff, which has been pretty fun. Working on a RPG project, which I haven't properly announced what I'm working on yet, but been doing that. Was talking to someone recently about a flight simulation, which was kind of fun. I was originally trained, as I said, in mechanical and in aerospace engineering, so that's kind of a fun little collision of those two roles. And then I'm looking for a full-time role now. So, in the job search grind as such things go. And it's not the best time to be doing that in the industry, but I've had some decent success so far, so I'm hopeful. But yeah, that's where I'm currently standing. I continue to work on this in my free time, and I do intend to I've basically said on social media, like, I'm going to get multiplayer working, harass me until I do, because I do really want to do it. I just think it will be a lot of fun. But it's no longer my full-time focus.
How unfortunate, I suppose. But
That's how it goes. I always went into this knowing that it was a huge risk, right? Especially in retrospect, the fact that I kind of took this leap, having only made kind of hobby projects prior, the more I think about that, the more insane my own actions sound to myself. But I mean, it was always a possibility going in. I really don't have any regrets, to be honest. I had a great time.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, I hope your job hunt goes well.
Thank you very much. Me too.
Anyway, so I think I've run through my gamut of questions. Anyone else got anything?
I think I get through mine too, yeah.
I am also good.
All right.
Sweet.
All right. So, Harrison, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here to talk about your projects. It was most enlightening. Anyway, you can find all of them on Steam right now. Fallen Spirit, Cat Herder, and Grippy Golf. All of them are available for purchase. Fallen Spirit is $1.99, Cat Herder $4.99, and Grippy Golf goes for $11.99 with the soundtrack going for $3.99. So be sure to pick them up today. Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. So this week we are talking about Fallout again. I don't believe this is the first time we've talked about Fallout, but it begs a revisit because the Fallout Amazon series released last week. Like, I think exactly a week ago today. And has become Need help with the volume control over there?
You saw me standing alone without a dream in my heart.
Hello?
Petty, we're getting like the game and maybe not you in in Discord.
Better?
Yes.
Alright.
Anyway, as I was saying, so the surprisingly long anticipated Fallout TV series released last week, and perhaps against most expectations, it's been getting universal praise.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's mostly good aside from some possible issues with respect for certain parts of the existing Fallout canon.
Well, we do have an update to that because no less an authority than, as much as he can be an authority, Todd Howard came out with the revised timeline. If I can find it. There we go. Because, the Fallout TV series caused some confrontation with a specific subset of the Fallout fan base, as in the New Vegas peeps.
Yeah, they got done dirty again.
Like,
Am I wrong?
So, IGN recently interviewed Todd Howard and Fallout, the series executive producer, Jonathan Nolan, and they were asked how the Fallout timeline fits into the TV show. And they did confirm it does take place later than any of the other Fallout games. So I'm not sure if I think they've officially said that yes, Fallout New Vegas is canon, and there's apparently been some quote unquote confusion about the timeline. I'm not sure confusion is the word, because getting into Fallout timeline spoilers, I suppose. The big controversy is the Fallout TV series says that the NCR doesn't exist anymore.
And hasn't for a while.
Yeah. But apparently that's been retconned now. As apparently this is taking place before, apparently the next season 2, is going to take place concurrently with the first battle of the Hoover Dam, which is a big lore event in Fallout New Vegas. So I'm not exactly sure what's up. I'm not sure if they know what's up.
It sounds like they're backpedaling because they pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah, because what they originally said was that the NCR got nuked in the fall of the Shady Sand.
Notably before that.
Yeah, which they said took place before the Fallout TV series. I mean, that just opened. Well, first of all, it opens up the question of who did the nuking, because I'm not seeing a lot of Caesar's Legion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm guessing the Brotherhood. Because that's about one of the few options that would actually make sense. Like the Enclave, well, that's another problem. Like, the Enclave is still a thing when they really shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing in Fallout 2. The Enclave got the shit kicked out of them, and and that's why they moved out east.
Mhm.
In fact, that's another thing about New Vegas. The Brotherhood of Steel isn't that prevalent there because of the NCR's encroachment. That's like one of the big problems with the NCR. They're becoming very expansionist and absorbing other groups into their manifold, whether they want to or not. Which is one of the many conflicts that's going on in New Vegas. So basically, yeah, there's a whole bunch of war stuff that's not fitting together. And since the Fallout New Vegas ends are not for nothing, very unpleasable bastards. Yeah, things have been on fire for the last week. And I'm not sure if this timeline tempering is going to calm things down all that much, to be honest. So, that being said, has anyone else here watched any of the Fallout series?
I have not had a chance to.
Yeah, my Amazon TV keeps trying to get me on it, but I haven't taken it up on it yet.
I also haven't had time, but I've heard my friends talking about it a good amount.
Yeah, I've seen the first 3 episodes. Yeah, I do think the right call was made in making this an original production. Fallout is a series that could get away with that because Fallout doesn't really have a protagonist, or rather, another way to say it is Fallout is what some people would call a true role-playing experience. Like, people can get really snobbish about this, but, there's some people who, consider real role-playing games to be something that you can, build a character in, as opposed to, say, more console-style experiences, which are much more character and story-driven.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, I knew people who got very, let's say, particular about this shit. It wasn't all that fun talking to them, the truth be told. But to suffice it to say, the Vault Dwellers of various sorts don't have a lot to them other than what, other sequels have confirmed. Like the first Vault Dweller is canonically male, for example. That kind of thing. But they still try to keep it as vague as possible, as to not inject too much personality into official games and whatnot. Because, once again, Fallout is about, more than a lot of RPGs, about, having a character your way. Fallout, I suppose it does depend on the Fallout. Does allow you to play a character with a lot more nuance than you get in a lot of other RPGs. Because, it did take a bit of sussing out. Like, Fallout 1 is pretty basic with its morality. I mean, there are still degrees, but it's not half as varied as, say, Fallout 2. You know? And Fallout 2, like, introduced the concept of local karma, which is something that Fallout New Vegas here carried the tradition. Something that Fallout 3 less so. Like, Fallout 3 was a lot more broad strokes in its morality. That's didactic Mother Teresa devil's son. Like one of the evil acts is you can blow up Nuketown.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Whereas Fallout New Vegas is once again a lot more subtle and nuanced. One of the reasons why it's so beloved. I think I've talked about this before. Anyway, getting back to the Fallout TV show, yeah, from what I've watched, it's been. I'm not sure if I could call it the best video game adaptation I've ever seen. Like, I've seen a lot of them, and we have modern day Castlevanias and Sonics, and even like the new Super Mario Brothers movie. So, video game adaptations are getting a lot better. But what sets Fallout apart is it's not anchored down by its own material. That is to say, unlike, say, The Last of Us. One of the things about The Last of Us, which has been viewed in both lights, is it's very faithful to the game. The problem some people have is it's very faithful to the game. As in, why bother with this adaptation when, you could just go and buy the game? Which is a fair consideration, quite honestly. It's one of those eternal struggles with adaptation and reboots and shit like that. You got to strike that balance. But in the case of The Last of Us, it seemed to work out well enough for it. At least critically. I guess commercially as well, since, it is getting another season. Now, with the Fallout TV series, I don't think Amazon was expecting it to be a big hit. And the card that gives that away is its release schedule. Because, they just released the entire season wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
Because Amazon's one of those streamers that, for their big releases or things that become big, they do the weekly thing.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, I think The Boys season 1 had its first season drop all at once. And then it switched to weekly. And people are expecting that to happen with Fallout. I have no idea if that's actually going to transpire. But it did spark the old, the old, which model is best debate.
I'm pretty sure we could have a long debate on that on the other show about this.
Yeah, I'm sure. No doubt. The thing is, it's complicated, and and it's like no streamer goes all in on weekly. Like, even for Max, Disney Plus, the streaming services that believe really heavily in the weekly model, they only do that for the big stuff. mid-sized shows and shit like that, they still get the entire season dropped because they don't care enough to dole it out weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like the latest season of I'm trying to remember That's So Raven reboot is going. Though I think that might have been weekly. I honestly don't remember. The point is, some stuff is weekly, some stuff is wholesale. Unless you're Netflix,
Then everything is wholesale.
No, everything is a season at once. With some minor exceptions for the stuff that they picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Not the stuff that they produced. Stuff like the Great British Bake Off. That's weekly because that's how it's released in England.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I saw someone cite Delicious in a Dungeon. That's because on Japanese TV, it's still weekly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Amazon has picked up, or not Amazon, Netflix pissed off a lot of people holding anime in weekly Netflix jail.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing that killed JoJo's momentum stone dead.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will also concede that Stone Ocean just wasn't the strongest JoJo part, no matter what people say.
I fell off JoJo after part 3, but that's just me.
I mean, part 6 is when the bullshit got so bad that they literally had to reboot the universe. I mean, it was getting shaky in part 5, but part 6 is just when they hit the wall.
Yeah.
Literally. But anyway, I do wish I could talk more about the show itself, but I'm the only one who's watched part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
sorry,
it's fine. I haven't watched all 8 episodes myself. But it did get me to do the near impossible. Watch a show on Amazon Prime. Their player is less shit than when I last used it, but it's still pretty bad.
Yeah, at least it's not as bad as Hulu's player.
I use Hulu through Disney Plus, so I don't have to deal with that bullshit.
Lucky.
Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for Fallout for the time being.
Yeah.
Right. Indeed, that'll bring our Fragments of Silicon episode to a close as well. So, coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of MSP planned with guest.
Oh, man.
I know it's been a couple of weeks. They've confirmed and everything, and
I think I saw they popped into the Discord, like the actual server.
Yes. Anyway, so on Friday, April 19th, we'll be having Rustem Amirzinov of Rubido Games, and we'll be talking about their title Soulbind Tales of the Underworld. Betty, you should have a copy of that.
I think I saw it, yes.
Okay. And coming up on the Sunday reviews, hang on, I just had that window. Here we go. We'll be having reviews for The Undergarden, Nuke Them All, Morel the Hunt 2, and Hyper Light Drifter. So, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.